Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya Master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And I guess today is Technical Issues Monday because in the UK, Anne-Marie's having a little trouble getting everything to work just so. So she's going to work on it for a few minutes and see if she can connect and join us in the conversation. But I am joined by Alicia Farricielli, who is a life coach and an intuitive healing life coach. Now, we've had many people on the show over the years who take the intuitive approach. I'm not really sure if there's actually another way to do it than intuitive, but I like that you're focused on that. So I want to learn more. Alicia, first of all, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm just amazing and happy and to be here. So yeah, thanks for having me on here.
That's a good thing. All right. So you got to first start by just telling us the story. How did you get to the point in life where you decided to even do this? I mean, this is the kind of thing that's more like a life calling than a job. So usually there's a story behind it.
Yeah, I wasn't like 5 or 6, 10 years old in bed saying, I want to be a life coach. You know, I don't think it actually existed back then, or even wanted to be at work in the mental health. I talk about mental health, anything to do with, emotions and, intuitive. And I didn't even have any connect with my intuitive powers until probably 4 or 5 years ago. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So so I started off, I would tell people I was raised in a very fear-based, super strict religious conservative family. And I was born into so much fear-based mentality. And so that really brought me down as a child. And so I had to do a lot of healing from various things that happened in childhood into my adulthood. And I was going through my adulthood, I started multiple companies in marketing, social media. I did real estate, event planning. I had an event planning company for like 7-8 years. And worked in real estate. And I kept having the same things going over and over again. I kept hitting the same problems that I would in my business. And I just kept facing things. And I wasn't happy at all. I'm just completely miserable. In fact, I tell the story is one night I was just sitting on my floor and I was like, God, universe, whatever you call it, I can't do this anymore. It's either something's got to change or I'm done. I'm literally done living. And so at that point, it's amazing how things start to happen. It's like I started to notice some things a little bit differently. So I literally put that out there, and it was the calling came to me. So I started living a little bit seeing things a little bit differently. So I started on a healing path. This was probably about 10 years ago. And so once I started doing that, it took me a little while to start to figure out what was wrong. And I'm still playing victim. I was like, oh, all this stuff happened to me, so I'm such a victim of this. So as I started getting into more and more healing, actually hired a coach. About the time I decided I wanted to be a business coach. And so I hired a coach around that time. And then I decided with business coaching, all my clients that I had didn't really need the business coaching because they could find all that stuff on YouTube. They could find, we could put together plans and the accountability was great. But what they really needed was mindset work. So I started doing the mindset work with them. And then I was like, oh, let's hire a coach. And I need to work on some more mindset too, because I can get them so far. We need to get, So within 90 days, she actually introduced me to energy work, meditation, some breath work stuff. And so I just grasped onto that, and it changed my entire life in 90 days. And so once I started to do all this stuff, I started to implement it with my clients. And I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but I don't just focus strictly on people trying to launch a business now. So I was working with that. I came down to the point, I was like, there's still something a little bit missing. And it's funny. I was like, okay, what's the next step, universe? In comes inner child healing. And so I was like, oh, that's it. And so I started to connect with my little Alicia, and we started to, oh man, it was the best thing ever. And so as I started to connect to her, all the pieces started to put into place, and I started to see people with more compassion. I started seeing myself with more compassion. I started to really the major healing started to take place when I started connecting to little Alicia, is what I call her. So now I add that into most of my coaching is really evolved into inner child healing and how that ties into things. But I do it on a spiritual basis, an intuitive basis. So we do breath work, we do meditations, and I do intuitive energy healing around all of this. So you start to bring out the energetic blocks that are blocked inside of people. So they're getting almost a balance of mind, body, and spirit, and healing their inner child. And because if we don't do we leave all the emotional blocks inside of us that we're not releasing in certain one way or another, we're only going to get so far. And that's kind of where I had gotten until I was introduced to energy work and the intuitive world.
I'm fascinated by the fact that you said you made a big change in 90 days, simply because that's what psychologists tell us is the amount of time it takes to change a habit or to change a series of habits. And that, so when you say 90 days, I think to myself, well, you changed some habits in a big way.
I did. I came out of that victim, and I really, I go back and look at like a lot of the things but I was also able to release some of these things that were stuck in. I saw energy blocks that were stuck inside of me. So I had all this anger that was stuck inside of me, and through energy, like being able to break all that up and to release some of these emotions out of me. I mean, I'd have been in therapy for, I don't know, on and off all my entire life. I still, like I tell people, I love my therapist. She's amazing. I go and talk to her once a month, and she's fabulous. But that didn't do everything. That didn't completely get the locked emotions inside of me out. So once I started to do that, I was able to open back up and start new habits. I wasn't so angry. I wasn't so upset. And everything started to change over. Yeah.
And you're also the host of a podcast called The Intuitive Revolution. Gee, I can't imagine where that title came from.
Oh, yeah.
But from the way you're describing it, it sounds like it really was a revolution for you. It was a revolutionary experience in your life.
It was. And I tell people, I laugh because I'm like, if you ask, I'll say probably 6 years ago. If you'd have said, you're going to be doing what you're doing now, and you're going to be, I'll be like, what is it? That's whatever. That doesn't work. But I was so almost desperate to just to finish the healing part, not finish, but to continue the healing process. That I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And so I opened up to it, and my mind was completely blown. And I have and it's funny because the clients I work with, they're kind of the same way. They're like, okay, what is this? Well, sure, whatever. You're the expert. We're going to do it. And they see the results of it. So I always tell people, like, if you're not, there's so much quantum physics behind, energy work, the energy field, and the intuitive work right now that's from science coming out. That's really, really cool. It's backing it up, which really helps people who are the practitioners of doing this. But yeah, it was totally a revolution, completely a revolution for me.
When we realize that there is a scientific basis to these crazy changes we're trying to make, somehow they don't seem to be quite as crazy. Like they're almost socially acceptable.
Yeah, we have to balance. We have our masculine logic mind, and we have our intuitive creative part. You call it masculine fit or whatever it is. We have to have a balance of that because we are human beings. And so some people, they're not quite as in tune with their intuitive abilities. So they need that logic to back it up, to give it almost an okay, to make it feel safe for them to be able to do it. So I love that all the science is coming out with it, and people are starting to open up more to different means of healing.
It certainly has helped me, because kind of like what you were describing in your story, my own story includes coming into it, doing this podcast. I've been doing the podcast now for, how long has it been now? 12 years that I've been doing it. And during the very first months of that, I had no sense of the intuitive at all. Yeah. I mean, it's not that I didn't have intuition. I literally had no trust of what I did have. I mean, I thought it was just a bunch of craziness. Well, I ignore that side. It was that side of the family, right? You're not really there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're kind of born the psychic. It's like it's not that I didn't believe psychic abilities. I just didn't understand it. Because because I was born into a very strict, domineering, like faith-based, like you believe this, and if you didn't believe this, it was like fear put inside of you. So that had a lot of getting that out of, had to get that mindset out to start to open up to other possibilities. And it came at the perfect timing, because I would say even 10, 20, 15 years ago, if this had came out, I wouldn't have been open to it. It was all around me. And it wasn't that I didn't see things. I just wasn't open to it.
Yeah.
Because I had to had to heal from the fear-based.
That's the nice thing about the universe. The universe keeps giving us the same thing that we ask for over and over again, just that we don't notice it half the time.
Yeah. It's like, okay, if you don't do it's so funny. It's about like, you can do it now, or you can wait a little while, but it's going to be shoved for you to do it one way or the other, because this is where you're supposed to be. And you're going to be exactly where you're supposed to be. So you can do it the hard way or the easy way. It's your choice.
That's right.
I did it the hard way.
Oh, you're a 2x4 person. Okay.
Oh yeah. Now I do the easy way. I'm like, okay, I've learned.
As a 2x4 experiencer myself, I totally and completely identify with that. Yes.
Yeah.
So, Anne-Marie, it looks like you've straightened out at least some of the technology issues. So glad to have you.
Hopefully you can hear me.
We hear you. Yeah, it's not your best sound, but we do hear you, and that's the main thing. So, you know,
well, I'm here and I can hear you now, which I couldn't. So.
Okay.
And I missed the beginning of a good story by the sounds of it.
Well, Alicia was telling us about how she ended up going through her life experience growing up in that conservative Christian family and having to basically outgrow it. That's my wording, not her wording, but to grow out of, and the word I think that you used, Alicia, was a victimhood stance. You had to grow out of the victimhood of it, which is an excellent way of describing it. That's one of the things that I tend to associate most often with a lot of organized religion. There's a lot of victimhood attached to it, a lot of victimhood and a lot of judgment, which kind of go hand in hand now that I think about it.
They do. They do.
Yeah. I think that's why they engage in the one so they can have the other. I'm not quite sure which comes first, but that's another question.
Yeah, I think they're hand in hand.
Yeah, they really are. But growing out of that is a challenge because when it is a dominant part of your life, and from what you're describing, it was a dominant part of your life. Something that is dominant, you can't just get away from it. I mean, I know that from experience. I didn't grow up in a very conservative Christian family, but it was a moderately Christian conservative family, and we were the leading family in the church. So when I started doing my rebellion, that was a big deal. That was not something that you do lightly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it would have been like if I'd been Southern Baptist or something like that. I didn't have that background, but it was enough to deal with, to say the least. And when you're going through stuff like that, you do have to go through the victimhood piece because, well, first of all, you feel like a victim. Second of all, you are encouraged to be a victim. And third, you don't even know what being a victim is.
Right. It's a protection mechanism that you learned as an early child if you're brought into this. So you learn to protect yourself. It's like, if I can make something not make me feel bad and it's someone else's fault, because I don't know how, especially as children, we don't know how to process these emotions. We're not built for to process these big emotions that come to us. And so if we can, it's a protection mechanism. We have to push off the point blame. And so we don't grow out of that because we aren't taught how to grow out of that. We're continuing to be in that. And I would say there's so many, I would say, at least 80% of people, I mean, we all are victims. We all have a tiny bit of victim mentality in us. We have to face that, and it's okay. I mean, we have to be okay with that as long as it's not our overall mentality and it doesn't drag us down. But I see there's so many people out there, and it's that it hurts for them that they're walking through feeling like I did, that everyone is out to, like, nothing. It's not out to get them, but it's like these things happen to me, and it makes me a victim, makes me not as good, and makes me not as worthy as someone else. When
I was going through my own stuff, basically the turning point was the 2008 financial crisis because my business got wiped out. And not only my business, my wife's business, everybody's business got wiped out. And in the long run, it actually led to the end of the marriage, I think, among other things. But when you're going through something like that and you're trying to come to terms with this idea that you just proposed, this idea of, things are happening to me. This is outside of my control. That's the way it feels. And I remember when I was first introduced to the idea that I had attracted all of it into my life, I had the same reaction everybody else had. No way.
It's a hard pill to take, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Yeah. And eventually, like I said, I was a 2x4 guy. So I got the 2x4 enough times that I realized, okay, all right, I give in. It's me. I got it. Okay, good. But once I got there, I don't know. It's like there's a switch that gets flipped. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's at some point, you go through enough hell, and finally you flip the switch, and all of a sudden everything makes sense.
Yeah. It's so freeing though, because it's like you can create your own reality. It's like I sat in this victimhood and think that because I had all these things happen to me, I was a single mom for 10 years or so. All the things were happening to me that I was like, I'm just going to be like this the rest of my life, But then that swift flitch is like, you mean I can actually create my own world, my own reality, what's happening to me by just the words and the weight emotions that I'm feeling, the things that I'm releasing off. Like I can create that. It is like the most freeing thing ever. And it's something just makes me extremely excited. I'm excited waking up every day. I'm like, how am I going to create today? Like, how am I going to do this today? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get to that point, and it's just, like you said, it's just like this flip that switches to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's like at first when we resist it, it's kind of the universe. We keep resisting. Guess what's going to happen? It's still going to pull us into it. So you're going to learn the lesson one way or another, you know, 2x4s, or you can just be like, cool, that's the way it is.
I'm curious to know what your take is on this, because one thing that we have talked about here on the show with a lot of guests and with co-hosts and so forth is how there are a lot of people who go through life really never actually breaking through on that. I mean, they're getting the experiences, and usually they're getting them over and over and over again, but for whatever reason, they never come through the other side of that. They just live their entire days on that victim side. And it's kind of, I don't really have a full answer on why that happens. I mean, I just know from my own experience, you keep getting the 2x4s and they keep getting worse. So eventually you have to shift something. But I guess some people don't shift, and I don't know why.
So it's, when you think about it, it's so much easier to continue the same patterns that you have. It's so much easier to eat the same foods than to have to think about what to eat. People don't want to think. They don't want to critically think. It's just so much easier. It's so much easier than to sit with your emotions and sit with the hurt and the pain. And when you don't understand, you don't comprehend that you have to go through that. You're still going to be okay. And it's temporary. But if we can just push it off to the side, and never deal with it and keep going on this rat race, it's getting so much comfortable for them to do that. And to actually spend a little bit extra time healing.
Yeah, that's where we end up with what they call the inappropriately named comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking it's the uncomfortable comfort zone.
It is. Exactly.
It is. You have these people that complain all the time. They're negative about everything, and they don't want anything good to happen to them. Because what if something happens to them? They're out of their comfort zone. And all it is fear. It's completely fear. And once you learn to tackle and realize that fear is nothing more than an emotion, and when you start to figure out what emotions are not good or they're not bad, they're just simply emotions. It's like looking at, my phone's not good or bad, but it's how I use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's completely what it is. Certain things are not good or bad. It's just how you use them. And so when people start to understand that's what emotions are, it's just the way your body's feeling. It's just the way you're feeling at the moment. And it doesn't make it wrong or right. You're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to be angry. Now, are you allowed to go and scream at everybody and go murder somebody? No, you're not. That's not acceptable. But are you allowed to be angry and sit in silence for a minute and punch a pillow? Like you're not hurting anyone. Absolutely. And that's actually very healthy to do that. Because guess what happens? You don't stay angry. The people who stay angry is because they've been angry so long and haven't processed through that, and they've pushed it down to where they just have that emotion's trying to come up, but they're suppressing it. So if they just let it come up in a healthy way, and there are multiple healthy ways to do this, or if you're sad, allow yourself to be sad. If you're disappointed, even if you're healing through something and you're disappointed about something, or you're just having you can have a bad day. Now, can you have 365 bad days? No. Because that affects your life. But having one bad day and letting that process out and maybe just taking a step back and break, maybe what you need. And it's not a bad thing. We're told that we have to be happy all the time. We have to be put on a face all the time. We have to be the certain way all the time. But if we act like this and we're not genuinely feeling that because we haven't healed through emotions, and you can be happy all the time. I believe that. I feel that. But I had to process through those emotions. I had to be angry. I had to be upset. I had to play a victim for a little while longer. I did, to process through that. But once I started to do that, I was okay. And I realized that I'm going to be okay, knowing you're going to be okay. There's no emotion that's going to kill you. Emotions don't kill. They don't do anything. They're just make you feel. They do kill, and they do start harm your body when you keep them inside of you. But if we start to release them out, then they're not harmful. We're human beings. We're not perfect. And all of us want to be perfect. Not all of us, but we're taught to be perfect. We're taught these things. But if we just kind of let that go and surrender into our emotions and let it process through, I think that really would be a huge change for people.
I was just realizing that I loved everything you said. I'm sure Anne-Marie was buying into it too. But I was just realizing that we do make it here on the show. We make a big deal about how emotions are your own and nobody gets to tell you whether they're right or wrong or anything like that. But we're also doing everything we can to release them all the time. That's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the tip to releasing emotions is we can't go from fear to joy. We have to go up the emotional ladder because that's not authentic. You have to feel the things. You have to go one step up. Maybe fear, it's disappointment. And we want to be, because if we're going from, I'm fear, I'm just happy all of a sudden, that's not authentic. And that's where, if that's true, because your body and your mind and your body's going, wait a minute, I still feel this inside. Okay, let's just shove it down and hold it. Mm-hmm. Let's hold it until you can't hold it anymore. And that's why people have, the doctors just say like stress causes so many diseases. Well, the stress is nothing but you holding these emotions inside of you. It causes, I'm a firm believer, it causes cancers, it causes, heart attacks, it causes all the things that, we want to say stress causes, but stress is nothing more than holding those emotions in. So yes, it is true, but we have to let those process through. Doctors tell you, well, you go to the doctor and be like, well, you just need to get some stress off of you. And it's like, well, what does that mean? That doesn't mean you can step out of your stressful life. That means you need to start processing your emotions. That's all that's what simply means. And they don't understand, like, take some stress off of your life. Doctors are probably, I'm not saying anything bad about doctors. They're probably one of the most stressed out people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I always find it interesting that we're taking advice about stress from doctors.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's as simple as literally, and it really is a simple concept when you start to do it. It's like you just simply sit with your emotions every day. I wake up in the morning, how do I feel this morning? Well, I'm feeling like something's off. And just sit in meditation or whatever, however you just want to sit there and journal. I'm feeling, okay, what am I feeling is off? Well, I'm feeling a little angry. What am I feeling angry about? And just go down the process. And by the time you feel you're angry, you're going to be like, okay, I'm really angry about this. Let me sit with this anger for a minute until I don't feel angry anymore. And it will pass.
One of the most fascinating things about this idea, and certainly I agree with you, definitely the role of stress in illness, disease it's gotten to the point now where anyone who tries to pretend that there isn't a major connection going on there really is not living in reality anymore, which is a good thing. I'm glad we're finally at that point. But despite that, we still also go through life experiencing stress and I've been discovering this in myself lately quite a bit. We live in stress and we don't even realize that we're experiencing stress. Mm-hmm. It becomes something that the only time that we ever really know about it is if we get some sort of a feedback somewhere along the way, which could be in the form of disease or some kind of chronic condition or something like that.
Yeah, that definitely happens. So again, we have to go back and process those emotions. Completely lost my train of thought there, but I agree with you. We do have to, and people don't want to. We bring on a lot of stress, yes, because we try to control everything, and so we don't realize we have anything. We don't have stress going on because we're trying to control everything. We think that's what we're supposed to do. We're controlling every outcome. We want to live stress free. You have to surrender those outcomes. You have to surrender all that up. You have to give it away. Second thing is people realize they're not under constant stress because we're always in fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. Our nervous systems are so shot. And a lot of this comes in through mother's womb. It comes through generational trauma. It comes through other things that are passed down, DNA. And there's so much science going on that our genes are changed because of this. And we're passing these same stressful genetics on to our ancestors. And so great thing is we can stop that as we mature, go out.
Well, that is the challenge. How do we go about stopping all that? Because you're right, that can be generational. It can be, a continuous chronic kind of experience, and it can be challenging to overcome it. I mean, from my own experience over the last few years, I've eliminated a lot of stressors from my life, a whole lot of stressors, and yet I find that I'm still dealing with stresses that originated a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you haven't processed it.
They just, as much as I thought, well, yeah, I'd pass that one. No, not really.
Yeah. It takes a continuous working on your nervous system on a daily basis. Doing that through meditation, breath work, however you want to do, taking 5 minutes out and just sitting with nature. Like, you have to calm your nervous system down on a daily basis. And if it's completely out of whack. And at the very beginning, you need to spend a lot more time doing it. But if you continue to calm your nervous system down when you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night, you're going to see a huge difference in the stress level of your body. We were holding our...
When you say calm it down, let's be specific. What do we mean by calm it down?
So imagine your nerves, we're all like this, right? And our chest is tight. We're breathing like this. Imagine relaxing. You feel how your nerves feel. Like, it just feels, your body feels. When you take your deep, big breath in through your belly and you really calm, like roll your shoulders back. Imagine how much better that feels. Your nerves feel like you can really feel the nerves. That's what I'm saying about calm it down throughout the day. Just every hour, taking in 5 deep breaths will help calm that down. We can't get to a state of healing and get to the things that, things people still going through if we don't calm the nervous system down. Because imagine if you've got a tiger chasing you, which almost all of us feel like we have a tiger chasing us all the time, because that's where we're wired back in, you call caveman days. But now the tiger's not chasing us. What's chasing us? Scarcity, fear, losing everything. But that's not a tiger chasing us, but it's still in our body. So until we get out of survival mode, we can't start to open up. Because if you have a tiger chasing you, your last thing you're worried about is trying to heal from the anger that you felt 5 minutes ago. You're trying to survive. And that's the way our bodies are acting now. And so we have to start to calm those down.
Yeah, they're good at that too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would say it's good to have a skill. I'm not sure that's the right skill to have, but nevertheless, it's good.
It would have been beneficial years ago, but yeah, probably not now.
But this morning I woke up and I felt really anxious, and I haven't woken up and felt like that in a long time. And I was just driving to work and just like breathing it out, and I ended up having like a really good day. It was just like trying to release whatever that was. Yeah. But what I was going to ask you is, say for example, I've been at work and then I've come home and I've seen the kids and I'm doing their dinners and we're taking them to classes and X, Y, Z. And there's all these unprocessed emotions I kind of triggered and not triggered and not dealt with during the day. Would you then just kind of try and process that in the evening when you get that time?
Whatever time it takes you to do that. Yes. Spend the time if you can have it eat low, especially kids understand it's really tough to get away, but you can have that, 30 minutes to yourself at night to process that. But also start to look at yourself and realize, are these emotions that I've taken on from people outside of me? Was my boss upset? Did I take on their emotions? Okay, well, I'm just going to mentally release this, and I do the breath, release that back out to my boss, and that's no longer my emotion to take on. And so I take on the emotions of what maybe the boss made you feel anxious from that. Well, the anxious is yours, but the anger, I'm just saying anger going on was not yours. So just push it back at them. And you can energetically do that just through mindset. Like, this is back to them. And then protect every morning when you walk out the door, the best thing you do is protect your energy. You can literally close your eyes, imagine a white light above you, flowing through you, and a protection. Just ask for divine protection. It works magically. And just do that whenever you're feeling like you need that. But every morning I would suggest doing that. But yeah, process those emotions. Whenever it's never too late or a bad time to do it. The quicker you do it, the better. But it's not like you're just gonna die the next day because you didn't process those emotions, or you're gonna get just you're gonna have all these diseases, you're gonna have all this stuff going on. No, it's the added up portion. It's like filling a cup up with these things. It's gonna start to overflow one way or the other. It's going to overflow with joy, or it's going to overflow with whatever emotions are in there. But really starting to learn to own, is this my emotion or is that someone else's? Because there's a lot of universally collective, a lot of chaos going on energetically that people are picking up on. And from people saying stuff, and you can just feel it coming off of people. That's why it's very important to protect your own energy and to be able to put back what's other people's. It took me a long time to figure this out. because I'm a very empathic person and I feel everything from people. But I mean, I literally, I feel you from that. Like, I feel like people, I'm like, I can feel the tension, but I just have to protect me. Like, it's not mine to deal with. It is theirs. And that's their journey to deal with, not mine. I'm going to own what's mine. You can call back your own energy at the end of the day. And that maybe another practice, like close your eyes, like, I'm calling back my own energy. I'm letting this come back to me. The good, the bad, whatever, because whatever I need to learn from this, and I'm pushing out the energy that's not mine.
You mentioned a moment ago breathing and how our breathing can be very shallow.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best places we can start, because even when we feel like that we're making progress there's always room for improvement on that, I think.
Absolutely. I'm a breathwork teacher. I teach people how to do this, and I catch myself throughout the day because it's a habit. I mean, I'm 44. It's probably been 40 years of habit of holding my chest. And as a woman, we're told to hold our stomach in. We're told to, to be like this. And that's so unhealthy for our bodies. It's not natural for us. So I have to, as a breathwork teacher, I consciously, not that I'm a guru at everything, but just I consciously have to realize that I'm holding in my chest a lot too. So, yeah.
And it isn't even necessarily just holding it in your chest. I mean, it's more of, from my experience anyway, it's more of a habitual shallowness of breath. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the idea that we are allowed to take deep breaths on a regular basis. It's almost like we were told, no, never ever do that. We weren't actually told that, but it seems like it sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's kind of strange how subconsciously we can't take a big deep breath. And it's like and it's so funny. It's like, I'll be sitting down and be like, what do I need to take a deep breath? I'm like, oh, okay. Take that breath in. I'm like, why did I not do that earlier? Why did I not just take this deep breath 5 minutes earlier whenever I was starting to feel a little tension and anxious coming on? Yeah. That's such a great point.
Oh, sorry, Well.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I swear things like my asthma have got so much better since doing like deeper breathing and focusing on like breathing through my chest. I swear I don't get as many asthma issues as I used to.
Yeah. When you learn to breathe, because our bodies were not designed to breathe through our chest, are designed to breathe through our stomach and bring the breath all the way up. This energy flow. It's prana. But we over the years have decided that we're going to breathe differently. And I think I'm going to contribute that women to having to hold in and be perfectly, corsets, and from back in the 1600, whatever that was, things like that can constrict you. And so I think that's a lot of kind of conditioning too over the time, but it's also subconscious, like we're breathing that way. I love breath work because it's emotional. It helps you like release emotions, but it's so good for your physical being. Like you said, with your asthma, it's good for I haven't ran, and like I was using the example, I quit running about a year ago because I absolutely do not like it. And I tried to like it for a year, and I was doing sprints. I was doing Orange Theory. I'm familiar with that Orange Theory, doing sprints out. I haven't ran in a year. I just do still, physically do physical activity, exercise. I got on the treadmill about a month ago and started doing these sprints. I was the exact same from doing breath work. That's the only reason I contributed. It was not the fact I was in better shape or anything else. It was the fact that I learned how to breathe. And so you look at runners, you look at people who are doing things, they're breathing differently. That's how you keep endurance, because we are breath, we are life. That's what we are. If we stop breathing, we die.
It occurred to me quite recently that one of the main reasons why we continue to survive and sometimes even thrive despite poor breath work and so forth is that we sleep. Because when we sleep, we do very good breathing when we sleep.
You can't be going, like
breathing. It doesn't work.
You don't. But you'll wake up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's such a great point. I haven't heard that. I love that.
Yeah, but if you are truly getting deep sleep, you're getting breath work in. You're just doing it only 8 hours out of the day or whatever it is.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't have sleep apnea, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, we could make the argument that sleep apnea is kind of a takeoff of the distortion of poor breathing habits. I mean, I don't mean to minimize the other physiological factors that are involved that lead to sleep apnea.
Yeah.
But you could kind of say that, breathing habits feed into that.
Yeah, I actually had a lady on my podcast that spoke a little bit about that. She went through. She's a sleep breathing kind of specialist. But there's a special techniques that she teaches people how to breathe if they have sleep apnea. That really helps with that. So yeah, I mean, breath is everything. It is.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Is there a difference between like breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth? Because when I was younger, I could never breathe through my nose. I could only breathe through my mouth. And now if I breathe through my mouth, it doesn't feel like I'm taking enough air in. So I just wondered, is there a particular way to breathe?
Yes, and people say, I think there's not necessarily. I think you're still bringing the in, but there are certain ways that if you breathe in through your nose, you're a little bit slower than your mouth. So when you're doing breath work, it depends on what your end goals are. If your end goal is to calm your nervous system down as you want to or sleep at night, you probably want to breathe more through your nose. But if you're looking for more energy, you can take those big, deep exhales through your mouth. So I haven't seen personally any difference and like doing regular breath work. People ask me like for whatever's more comfortable for you. If your nose is stopped up, breathe through your mouth. Me breathing through my mouth constantly makes my throat dry and raw. So I don't, if I do breath work for an hour, so I'll take a breath through my nose if I need to. It's all, I mean, there's so many techniques that it gets so complicated. It's like meditation. It's like, you have to do it one way. It's like, no, you do it to where your body feels comfortable. I mean, however you feel comfortable with it, for sure.
Or maybe not so much where you feel comfortable, but where you feel the most relaxed, where you feel the best vibration, or however else you want to express that, where you're feeling your best.
Yeah. And sometimes breath work is not for us to relax. It's for us to energize. It's for us to release these emotions, or it's to build up. So when we're breathing, we're building up and we're taking the oxygen is oxygen to our brain, and we're focusing on that. And we're going to feel, I mean, have you seen, I don't know if you ever did breath work. Some people cry. Some people laugh. It's just bringing all these emotions up if it's done properly. And then you have this release coming down off of it. And you can do that multiple times up and down with it. So it's not necessarily going to be breath work for like just relaxation, but you can really build up a good, like Kundalini brings up the sacral, the energy that comes up through you. And that is absolutely not something that's going to relax you down. It's going to build the energies up inside of you. So it's something to do in the morning. So, yeah.
So in other words, there's a timing to all of this.
There's a timing to it. You don't want to go and, I mean, if you're looking for going on YouTube, Spotify, make sure you're looking at if it says it's for sleep or for energy, because if you're doing a Kundalini in the middle at night, trying to go to sleep, you're going to have a harder time. But at night, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you're doing something for sleep, breath work, where you're slowing the breath down as much as you can be good, but it's also not going to give you that like energy spark that you're probably looking for with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So mindfulness apparently is something you have to be mindful about.
Yeah. So, I mean, in certain ways, I mean, it's not to overthink it too much. I mean, you could all do box breathing, like 4 count to 4, hold for 4, release for 4, and then hold. I mean, you can do that throughout any time. So it's not like you have to be specific on it. It's just knowing that when you're breathing deeply and you're exhaling in these big, long breaths, all of a sudden that you're really bringing the energy levels up in your brain, but slowing it down at night, you want to release really slowly.
That slow release.
Yeah, that slow release is calming because you're calming your nervous system down.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so you can get in that to a deeper sleep.
Right. Yeah. I've often thought about what is my breathing like as I'm going to sleep, because so often, I mean, it's just automatic.
Yeah.
You know, you have
an aura ring, you'll find out.
Yeah. But I have thought about it at times. I've wondered, like, okay, so what is my breathing like? And I remember one time even trying to kind of stay not awake, but sort of like semi-conscious as I was falling into that sleep mode, and ask myself, okay, so what's happening as I'm doing this? I'll see if I can remember it in the morning.
There's something called yoga nidra that's kind of like that, where it takes you to that one level before. I think it's theta that takes you the one level before you fall asleep, and it's almost like it's a restorative. You can do like 60 minutes of that, and it's almost like you get 5 hours of sleep. The science behind it. So, I mean, your body restored, you know. So that might be something to look into. It might give you kind of an idea of what, but you're still conscious. You're still thinking it through.
One other thing, I mean, since we're doing a deep dive here on breathing and sleep, I figure I'll go one more step. I recall when I was in college years ago taking a course in sleep and dreams. it wasn't a full semester course. It was like a between semester kind of a thing. And my school had a weird system. Anyway, the course focused on a number of different things about sleep and dreams, particularly the sleep cycle. By the sleep cycle, I mean you fall asleep and what kind of a dream cycle you go through. Well, there's like the short dream and it's a little bit longer and a little bit longer. There's like all these different dream cycles that you're going through. And you're going from deep sleep to shallow sleep to deep sleep to shallow sleep is where the dreaming goes on. Deep sleep, there's no dreaming going on.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting that we have that rhythmic pattern going on. We don't stay deep. Now, deep is where we get the biggest amounts of rest, but we don't stay there. We go through these rhythms like that, which is really fascinating to me.
It is really cool. I've actually studied a lot of that in the past year and a half because I have deep dive into my sleeping. I have a sleeping disorder, but I've working through. It's the deep sleep that happens at the very beginning of your cycle. So like the first hour or so of sleep. Yeah. That's super important. And then you go through your medium sleep. I forget what that is. And your REM sleep, which is your dreaming, which is typically at the end of your sleep cycle. So it's kind of like you notice you wake up, you feel like you've dreamed all night.
Right.
You probably haven't. You probably just dreamed that last little bit. And so
you might have dreamed. I mean, at the very beginning, you might have. I mean, from what I remember, there's like a 3-minute dream cycle, and then you've got like a long period of time because you're in theta, and then you come back, and next time it's a 6-minute cycle, and then next time it's 12 minutes, that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so
it goes up and down.
Most of the dreaming is happening later on, but you do a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To me, it's almost like you're putting together a movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes a movie that doesn't make any sense, but nevertheless, it's a full-length motion picture.
Doesn't make sense. There's probably some meaning behind it. I haven't really dove deep into the dream world or analyzing dreams or anything like that. I have a harder time remembering my dreams. That's something I say. Like I want to learn how to remember my dreams. I need something I'm working on. But I think there's a lot of meaning behind our dreams. A lot of subconscious things going on over there.
Yeah. Dream diaries require that you but when you wake up in the middle of the night and you remember a dream, you pull your dream diary out and you have to write it down before you can go back to sleep. And I didn't want to be that sleep deprived. So
I won't go back to sleep.
I don't sleep either.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to, I have a hard enough time falling asleep. And once I get to sleep, it's like, I'm a bear. Do not wake me. My husband's like, he knows better. It's like, don't wake me up. I do not know what's going to happen. I'm not responsible for being woke up in the middle of the
night. Look out, Mama Bear's here.
Yeah, I'll be as sweet as whatever, but don't wake me up in the middle of the night.
That's funny. These are all very interesting side aspects, but they are aspects of that mindfulness formula that you were talking about earlier. That intuitive, that's something we don't often associate as much as we could, I think. Mindfulness and intuitiveness or intuition. Because you're all about the intuition. I mean, your podcast is named The Intuitive Revolution. I mean, your whole thing is intuitive coaching. So, I mean, that's a big part of what you do. And yet, the tie to mindset, it's almost a perfect overlap.
Yeah, it is, because when we tap into our intuition, it starts to guide our mindset. It starts to guide our life. And that was the biggest thing when I learned to tap into my intuition. If I have a question, I might call a friend up for some advice. I might, ask my husband, ask somebody for it. But the first thing I do is I go into intuitive and I listen to my intuition. And I call in divine guidance for that. I'm like, where do I need to be? Where do I need to be? And so that has never led me astray. It might lead me to places I don't think I wanted to go or I need to be, but it hasn't led me astray. And so that's the key to in learning your intuition, is that you may not take you to may not be the answer you're wanting. It may not be where you want to be, but it's not going to guide you to where you're not supposed to be. So if we stop listening to everybody else's advice and started listening to our own advice and started listening to what's already inside of us, because all the answers you're looking for are already inside of you. You already know. We just want confirmation. And so sometimes it's okay to get confirmation. There are problems you need to add some logical aspects to. But all intuitively, everything's inside of us. I've got my entire business is guided through intuition. I have all next year's plan written out from like a 5-minute download from my intuition.
Wow.
Of what I need to release, let out, where I need to go, and where I need to go. Be like step by step, and I'm working to build. I have to build. The work is there. I have to build the steps out more, But it's like this is the path is where you need to go. I'm like, cool. And I love it because I'm like not worrying about where I need to be next year, where I need to go next year, what I need to focus on, what I need to let go of next year, because it's already given to me. And I trust that. It's been a work in progress, and you have to learn to trust it. But once you start to learn to trust that and trust yourself, man, it opens up.
I'm thinking again about my own experience with that, because I was always a planner type. I had to actualize everything in my mind before I could take any steps at all, which meant most of the time I wasn't taking steps. I was just actualizing plans.
Yeah.
I was very good at that.
I don't want the plan. I just want you to tell me the plan, how it's gonna. I don't even care. Like, just tell me what to do, how to get there. And now it's like, I don't know. I mean, some amazing things have happened this year to me. I've never existed. Actually, speaking on it, like I've been doing speaking engagements, and even doing speaking on podcasts was not even. I wanted to do it, but it was not even on my plan, and just fell into my lap. And I've did 70 of these this year.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
Wow.
I'm just saying all this stuff is coming up. It's because I trust intuitively that's where it's guiding me. And so when we start to open and start to intuitively trust and stop controlling everything, amazing things start to happen, and you find out where you're supposed to be.
Well, I'm going to be non-controlling for a second because I need to do something for about a minute here. So Anne Marie, I'm going to let you do the next question, and I'll be back right after that.
Sure. What I was wondering when you were talking there was, how do you know it's your intuition and how do you know it's your mind? Because sometimes I can feel things in my stomach and I feel it in my heart, and then the mind will try and take over, and it's just like,
Yeah.
So the people who aren't used to it, what would you say was the best way to manage that?
What feels right? I mean, it comes down to it.
Good answer.
I feel it in my heart and my stomach too. Like, and some people feel it in their, but if it's questioning it, if you close your eyes and ask yourself a question, and you get an answer to it immediately, and you feel it inside your body, like your heart, like you're almost in your gut feeling, that's more intuition. And it's not fear-based, like things are like, it's not going to be fearful, and nothing, your intuition doesn't try to scare you. It tries to guide you to places where you need to be. So people are like, well, I got this intuitive gut and it's just so fear-based. I'm like, that was not that's your ego. I call it ego, trying to scare you, trying to protect you. Something you probably like, that's not it. It's something, it's almost like a gut feeling that you know, but you may want to, you might question it. Well, it doesn't always make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it's probably your intuition. If you can't logically go through it and it's a decision to make, and you can't but you still feel like, I feel like I just keep feeling this. Like feeling won't get away. That's your intuition. Follow it and see where it takes you. Just follow, literally follow it. But if it's telling you to do things that are going against your value core of who you are, not what you've been taught, but and value you are, that's probably not your intuition. If it's taking you out of your flow of your life, I'm talking flow of life, like not comfort zone, but like things that feel good to you. Not comfortable, but feel good to you. That's your intuition talking. Again, it's not fear-based. If there's anything like fear-based coming, it's just, that's your ego. And you can kindly tell it to step away. We're going to go down and try this. And then if you're wrong, then you can always, ego, you can take back over. It's not going to take back over.
That was always a point of contention for me. When is it my intuition and when is it my ego?
Yeah.
Trying to differentiate between the two.
That
challenged me for the longest time. I finally did figure out how I could figure that out, how it would make sense to me. But I think everybody kind of wrestles with that one way or another.
It's hard. And you have to start. I mean, I tell people, start small. Start with, what do I feel like wearing today? Or what do I feel like having for breakfast today? What's the first thing that comes in? I'm not saying like, I feel like having a cookie or carbs or something. That's probably your body. Me, a sugar addiction, but it's, I feel like, for some reason, I feel like strawberries just sound so good to me today. Go eat some strawberries. Your body probably needs it. It's intuitively telling you. Wake up today. It's like, oh, I just feel like wearing the color green. Just wear that green shirt. That might be a reason why. I mean, you're into it. Start with the little bitty things. Take the road. Which way do I feel like going today? Not which way logically makes sense or which way is less traffic. Which way of the court? Which way do you want to go? Oh, let's go this way and just drive that way home. The little things. And when you start to trust that, you can start trusting it with bigger things. Because it's really hard to trust it with a job change or trust it with something if you don't trust your intuition.
Yeah, you have to have a foundation somewhere. Otherwise, you're not going to trust it. That's the whole point.
And it's almost like a muscle you need to work with and build and to really be able to connect to it deeply.
I know.
I used to do it.
We
Sorry,
got
I was going to say, I know, I don't know if I've got a delay, so my apologies, but I used to do this when I was little. And I used to do it when, like, when you're watching quiz shows and you have to pick an answer. And I would always pick the right answer. I had no idea. I was only about 7 or 8, but I could feel the answer. And I see my kids doing that now, and it's really fun to watch.
I love that you're contributing to that. Like you're encouraging that, because a lot of parents won't. A lot of parents, they don't, to like, oh no, you need to logically think through these steps. But teaching your children to intuitively listen to themselves, because children are so intuitive. Like we're born intuitive. We just shut that thing down really quickly because we're told that's not such a thing. Most of us do. And so as parents, if we can just teach our child, no, how does it, like, go with your gut feeling on this, and to dive into it and to teach them how to use that is such a valuable tool for them. And I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, I quite often say, what does your gut say?
Yeah.
And we all use that in our house. Now, even my husband was never into that at all. So what does your gut say?
Yep.
A lot of it is actually trusting that the child does have that intuitive connection in a way that the adult doesn't have. To me, that's probably the hardest thing, not just for a parent, but for any adult interacting with a child, is coming to grips with the fact that they've got a better connection than we do.
They do. But if you're an adult in tune with your intuition, you're going to realize the child has that too. Everybody has this inside of them. There's nobody that's not intuitive. We're intuitive beings. It may take us a little longer to reach that point to where we're tapped back into it and to open that up. But every single person is an intuitive being. That's how we're created, to make decisions. But we have our mind also to protect us again from the tigers and all the things that were happening. Because if we're like sitting there, what do I intuitively think when a tiger's chasing us and we're having to like go back, oh, my gut feels like this, no, it's logically get the heck out of there, So it's, you have, there's a balance of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have seen courses on this, and people finally get it. It's like, there's a balance of that, of making decisions on your intuitive base and your logic base, but always go with your intuition over the logic.
I know that, speaking for myself, like I said, I came from an experience of always trying to plan and analyze everything to death. And I finally got to the point where I can just go with what my intuition is saying, which I had to go through a lot to get there. For me, the difference is if trying to figure out whether it's an intuition or an ego thing, I just ask myself, well, how does it really feel? That to me is the guide. If it feels really good, or if it, more precisely, it doesn't feel bad, okay, I can trust that one. That one's good. But it took me a while to even get to that point. Now that I'm at that point, I enjoy it a whole lot more. I haven't planned out my day in ages. I can't remember the last time I did it, but I used to do it 100% of the time.
And you've probably found that it may not be what you want. Like me, like, oh man, I shouldn't have. But times doubting your intuition. But then you find out the reason why your intuition was telling you to do the certain thing, or to go make the certain decision.
Sometimes that's actually the biggest part of the challenge of it, because there could be long periods of time where it doesn't really feel like following the intuition is getting me anywhere. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck. Sometimes I feel like it's not moving anywhere. And then all of a sudden something shifts. And it's what I call a what happened moment. Trying to figure out what was that. Something shifted here. I don't even know what it was, but something's different. I can tell it's different. I got a different result here. I just can't really tell you why.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for us to know why or the how or the how to get there.
Yeah.
Because that's our thing, to just enjoy and to trust ourselves and our intuition to get us to the places where we're going to be the most joy and happiness and fulfillment and full of love. I mean, that's what we're
definitely a better way to live. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah. But you couldn't have convinced me of that 12 years ago.
Same here.
On the other hand, 12 years ago, you could have convinced me of almost anything because I was in such a bad space. So it's kind of, half and half.
Yeah. But look where you are now.
Better and better every way.
Yeah. See, audience, that's what you can happen.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're kind of coming up on the hour here, but I want to make sure we do a couple things before we're done. First of all, we haven't really told people. We told people that you're a coach. We've told people that you're an intuitive coach, that you have a podcast about intuition, but we haven't told people how to find you. We really should do that if we want people to be able to find you. So how do they find you?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. Luckily, I have a name that you search it, it's pretty much pops up very with the last name. But yes, my website's first name, last name, AliciaFarricielli.com. On the very top of that, there's a book a link, or book a call link. Click that call. Set up we can go up to 60 minutes or so. If you just need to chat about something, we'll chat about that, and I'll put together kind of a plan of action kind of going forward with that. Do you want to dive into some coaching? I have some one-on-one coaching sessions as we're recording this now available. We'll do that. We'll teach you how to tap into your intuition. If you work on inner child stuff, definitely book that call. You can also find me on social media, pretty much every social media there is except for Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. I just haven't jumped on that board yet. But yeah, Intuitive Revolution podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that. On all the other places that it pushes out to.
I ran away from Twitter. I couldn't handle Twitter anymore. So I used to be there. Like, no thanks. But yeah, that's okay. Hey, you got a lot of different ways for people to reach you.
Yeah, I just stay on the ones that work for me, and I'm okay with that.
That's right. That's right. That's the beauty of choice and options. That's so good.
Absolutely.
Second thing I like to do is I like to take a moment to thank people like you who are on the show for doing something that you don't often get thanked for, that none of us do. Because you mentioned you did 70 podcasts this year, not counting your own. Like,
right.
Wow, damn, that's a girl who's on it. You're really doing the job there. And I'm sure that's not the only way that you're putting information out there. And that's the part that I noticed. We put all this, we're in the information age. We put all this free information out there trying to help other people. And we help them in ways we don't even know about most of the time. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we get that feedback. We get an email or a text or something. But most of the time we're helping people and we don't even know what happened to them. We just know, we kind of hope somehow they got helped. And in truth, they do. There are lots of people who get helped by us in ways we don't know about, and we never get thanked for it. So I like to say, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. That makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
That was so good. I accept it. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, we do need to accept that. I think it's important.
Yeah, I fully accept that. Fully receive that in.
Yeah, good stuff. And then finally, because I have such wonderful co-hosts like Anne Marie who have really great perspectives on these conversations, I like to go to them to ask, how would you tie this whole conversation together? And this is my long lead in to give Anne Marie time to think about what she's already been thinking about for the last 5 minutes, knowing this is coming. But Anne Marie, how are you tying today's conversation together in your mind?
Oh, we've discussed so much lovely stuff, haven't we, with the intuition and the breathing and feeling your feelings. So I think for me, I've made some notes, and I think for me it's connect to your body, have the conversations with it, do not discount those more difficult emotions, and celebrate the intuition and the breakthroughs that you have. So it was all more of a connection with yourself, which I thought was quite a beautiful thing.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. So, Alicia, you have succeeded in helping us tap more into the intuitive side, because that's exactly what our summary was all about.
Yes, you summarized it well.
Beautiful stuff. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing this hour and sharing your perspectives and your experiences and so forth. And we wish you all the best going forward. That's for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate you. And we appreciate our audience listeners as well. So we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.